Hey, Louisa.
Hi, Jason.
How's it going?
Good, good. Okay. Oh, and Louisa, I'm glad you made it. Okay, everybody. So today we're having a really awesome guest, Ryan Hurd. He is a lucid dream teacher. He's also does dream studies and research. So quite popular, I believe, in the International Association of Dream Studies. I know he's got some books too that he'll probably bring up, and we could share the links in the chat. So with that, I'll let him kind of introduce himself because I don't want to. He can do way better than I could. Um, yeah, we're gonna have a really great topic of lucid dreaming. So with that, I will mute myself, and Ryan, you can take the platform.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you for Chelsey for inviting me into this space, and it's good to meet y'all. I don't know a lot about what you do, but the little that I have read, I find really fascinating. Um, so I'll give a quick introduction, and then I'll frame what we're going to talk about. And I'm hoping the intent is that you'll leave today with some practical skills that you can try out for increasing lucidity in your own life. And that's really what we want to see because it really doesn't have to be so hard and it doesn't have to be so complicated. So my name is Ryan Hurd, and I am a dream researcher and a dream worker, and have been doing this work for about 20 years. I've written a number of books that are in sort of the self-help market as well as more academic stuff as well. Uh, the lucid dreaming, my 2-volume anthology is sort of the benchmark right now of cultural and educational studies for lucid dreaming. Request your library to purchase it. It's too expensive to buy. Um, but that's really where it belongs. It belongs in a library. And I also wrote a book on sleep paralysis, which is the disquieting experience that sometimes happens involving sort of a sleep-wake hiccup that is associated with lucid dreaming. And I talk about how we can blend sleep paralysis nightmares into lucidity and into essentially more of these goals for extraordinary states of consciousness, such as lucid dreaming or out-of-body experiences, and other sorts of, altered states of that ilk. And so I live in Philadelphia with my family in Pennsylvania on the East Coast. It's early spring here. And let's see, one other thing. You mentioned the International Association for the Study of Dreams. I'll be doing a presentation this summer. Their conference is online this year. And I will be working on I'm looking at my thesis that I wrote 17 years ago and looking again at some of the content which involved an induction strategy into lucid dreaming using portals and moving into the lucid void and then noticing what happened when I came out. And so I'll be kind of looking at that. I was just looking at the dream set actually yesterday for the first time, and literally, yeah, probably 15 years since I've even looked at these dreams. It is just a sort of a power. It's just like it was a power download of like emotionality and vibrancy and shock and awe. So yeah, that's it. And we'll present some links for y'all. The main thing is you can find my hub at dreamstudies.org. And so you can kind of find everything essentially that I do from there. So I had a fun kind of thinking about how to present lucid dreaming to you all as involved in the analog astronaut community, science-based community, experimental community. This is an aspect of lucid dreaming that tailors pretty well to my past in archaeological studies. Because before I was a dream researcher, I was an archaeologist for 10 years out of college. And I was even then interested in dreams and also interested in intuitive ways of knowing. And how do we essentially integrate intuitive ways of knowing into the sciences and allow them to affect, transform, and and incite, give us insight into our protocols, into our hypotheses. All this kind of stuff is I've tried to do some integration work with the anthropological community and lucid dreaming. It's not paying the bills, but it's sort of like I would call it a love language, right? And so I would say that dream work, and especially lucid dreaming in particular, really can support the kind of work that y'all are training for, that y'all are doing, replicating, right, aspects of space travel. I think about just the things about like living in confined habitat, how coming comfortable with how to ground yourself, how to work with fear, how to do shadow work. All this stuff comes out of lucidity, can inform, those moments in time, as well as, of course, like performing scientific experiments, or dealing with simulations, dealing with challenges. Because a lot of lucid dreaming is taking the best of the dream world, which is intuition and emotional based intelligence, and integrating it with cognitive focus, right? And so, what I would do is to say to define lucid dreaming, the minimal definition is that it is a dream that I know I am dreaming. That's it. That's the definition. That little bit of lucidity can last a couple of seconds and you can kind of fade back into the dream landscape, or it can last longer, or it can often kind of come in waves. I like to think of it as that there's really more lucid moments than there are quote unquote lucid dreams. But in these moments of lucidity, we have new opportunities, we have new abilities. And so I wanted to check in with y'all before I go any further and just see if you could give me a raised hands on if you have had a lucid dream before in your life. And you can, if you don't have your camera on, let me know in chat. Um, Great. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Rodrigo. Great. Great, great, great. Wow. Oh my gosh. Y'all are super duper lucid. This is awesome. This is amazing. So, wonderful, wonderful. Now I'm gonna ask you another question. How have you ever had an out of body experience, either awake or in a sleep integrated space, like coming out of a lucid dream? I'm seeing one, two, three, four. Wow, wow. Okay. All right. Honestly, I'm delighted and not too surprised, especially given the kind of body somatic work that needs you have to have to do the kind of thing that you do with like increased proprioception and stuff like that. Like that's also a skill building for lucid dreaming. This is very cool. Thanks. Well, so this helps me. This helps me see where you're at and kind of where I can tailor what I want to share today. So what I figured I would do is talk a little bit about the applications of lucid dreaming, the benefits, I suppose you could say, and then we'll have an activity hopefully, and then I've got some tactics for increasing lucidity in your life. That's the game plan. We'll see if we can do that in an hour. So, the first thing I like to say about lucid dreaming is that the moment of becoming lucid in the dream, if you've never experienced this before, or it's been a while, because many people have it maybe once in their life and spontaneously, but that first moment of lucidity, oh my gosh, this is a dream, is is often described almost in religious terms in sense of awe and of paradigm busting, right? And so it's like what I thought was real turns out wasn't real. There is a more depth to this reality. There's more going on here. And what often happens in the moment of these first, spontaneous lucid dreams is a deepening of the senses, a deepening of the intellect. Colors become sharper, emotions and sensations can become stronger. And of course, what we have in this moment is choice. We have a choice of I'm in a dream. I can look around. What is it that I want to do? Do I want to just have the dream play out and I'm sort of observing, kind of, I'm as an anthropologist, we call this participant observation, right? Do I want to do a scientific experiment? This is what I have done before in some of my archaeological work. I would literally go lucid in a dream and then say, okay, where is the petroglyphs? Go find the petroglyphs in the dream and then study how they showed up. And then use that essentially as a map to discover my own intuitions as well as my own biases about the way that I perceive these cognitive artifacts in the ecological world, right? So not necessarily like in a psychic sense, but in a sense of just like, what is the schema? What is the paradigm that I'm operating from? And also, what can I learn? What's coming through intuitively that's getting around my rational filters that maybe my body knows, but that my mind is refusing to accept, right? And that's what dreams. That's the superpower of dreams, right? All dreams are the superpower is they tell us stuff we don't want to know. And nightmares are dreams that are very loud. That do the same thing, right? So if you don't listen to a dream, think, hey, there's something you need to look at here. Well, a nightmare just kind of amps up the power a little bit, right? So that power of lucid dreaming is about in that moment, in this present moment, is about choice. It is about self-control, is about guiding my intentionality, choosing how I want to focus, respond, noticing my responses, all of the stuff we call metacognition, right? Lucidity is a special form of what cognitive psychologists say is metacognition. And so that includes also meta emotionality, right? And so, super important skill in waking life. Noticing, for instance, oh, I'm feeling angry right now and I'm operating from an angry place. I'm going to watch how much I curse for the next 5 minutes, right? That's meta emotionality. We're using what's happening that we can't necessarily control, but that we can guide a little bit. That's a really good, I think, metaphor for lucidity because it's not about necessarily dream control. And I just want to say this is something that we have to keep coming back to again and again because of essentially marketing forces lining up with colonization forces and manifest destiny forces and sell more books, get more young guys to try to have sex dreams about popular actresses. This is where lucid dreaming equals dream control. That paradigm is not correct, right? It's not correct. It's about choice. Now, the caveat is that there are lucid control dreams, just as there are control dreams that were not lucid. And we see this, I guess you could say the Venn diagram of this showing up in folks who game a lot, gamers, high-end gamers, like who are very focused, tend to experience dreaming like they experience gaming. So it's a simulated reality. They tend to have a wider locus of control. But again, they're in they're in an environment that they can't control everything. You control yourself even in gaming, right? So it's not quite exactly virtual reality, although I'm excited about the way that some of those metaphors could go in the future. Um, so the way I think about lucid dreaming is it's a co-creative space, right? We have more of our logical, even metacognitive thinking online simultaneous with all those gifts of the dream world, which has to do with strong emotionality and the eruption of unconscious material or whatever it is, and being able to dance with it. So think of it as dreaming in general as a cognitive emotional playground where we play. And if you've ever been on a playground or if you have kids and it's been a long time since you've been on a playground yourself, then you know that playgrounds are like nasty places where people are always putting each other in jail and like locking each other up, and there's power dynamics. It's super intense if you've ever been around a group of 3-year-olds at a playground, right? But what are they doing is that they're playing out human dynamics in a safe place, in a safe container. and the adults are creating that container. Dreaming is in itself a safe container for experimentation and for playing out what if? What if I, rather than doing the thing that I always do, what if I did something different? Right? What does that look like? What if I take a risk here? What if I, rather than going up the stairs into the beautiful gilded room, what if I went down the dark stairwell into the basement? What's there? You know, this is a question that we can ask in lucid dreaming. So think of it as the ability to focus, and then the ability, just as important, to let go and to receive information. Again, this is what the dream world is all about, is giving us stuff that is kind of on the edge of awareness, but we've for some reason not been able to focus on it. It gives us a chance to build that container. Okay. One of the benefits of lucid dreaming for waking life is that it increases our cognitive flexibility in the waking world as we learn these skills in the dreaming world. It's the same mind. It's the creative dreaming mind, right? So we learn how to become more flexible thinkers. We learn how to do more meta emotional work, emotional intelligence work. We learn how we are when we are confronting fear. We learn how to stay calm in times of ambiguity, right? Times of ambiguity are essentially those times where we really, I think, can, I would say, hurt ourselves, but where we can get in our own way, right? Because when we're scared, when we are reflexive, we do what's worked before, and sometimes, especially in dream fearful scenarios, that means that we're leaning back into old paradigms of consciousness, perhaps that we inherited from our family. It could be even religious and spiritual ways of finding trust and security and safety in the world that don't necessarily merge with the way that you think now as a waking adult. And so you begin to so there's some belief structure stuff that comes up with this stuff too. You know, um, I was just thinking, I was thinking about, like, perhaps your worst nightmare would be floating around in space without a tether. That's literally my spiritual practice. Like, my spiritual practice is to go into a dream portal and to enter into a void and to dissolve the dream body and to essentially meditate or wait. In phenomenology, we call that the epoch, where we essentially just wait to see what emerges. And like in meditation, when fears emerge, we say we recognize them and then we set them aside, and then the dream recrystallizes around us and something interesting happens, right? And so lucid dreaming helps with that cognitive flexibility within dark, ambiguous times. How do I find safety, security? How do I know where I am? And related to this, how do I know where I am in relationship to my environment? And so that's where proprioception comes in. The skill building of how can I stay on top of something that's happening that's very dizzy around me and still be able to focus and keep calm, right? This is, as you know, this is not just mental, it is somatic. And the parts of the brain that relate to this have to do with the vestibular system and the inner ear, right? The TMJ, all this stuff. I'm not a scientist, and so I can't really get into the brain stuff. I know enough to know to get myself into trouble. And this is what we know is activated in lucid dreams as well. And so the fact that there's so many out-of-body experiencers in this in this small cohort, that's why it doesn't surprise me, because to successfully have an out-of-body experience is staying on top of very weird sensations that occur at the sleep-wake cycle at this disruption point, and be able to still assemble a point of self as you, quote unquote, leave your body or leave your perceptual body and have another point of view, literally taking another point of view. So OBEs is a skill building in itself, I think would be fantastic for y'all. And if y'all should look into the work of Jade Shaw, if you're interested in more of that. She's really doing some incredible work on OBEs right now. Okay, what else can lucid dreaming do for us? Um, I really think the emotional stuff is the powerhouse. Um, but it's also a workshop for muscle memory and for achievement and skills. And so in the studies on this are very clear that this works, but it tends to only work for essentially lucid dreamers who have tend to have, more than one lucid dream a year. It tends to be for more advanced lucid dreamers. If you're one of those people, this is something that you can do with lucid dreaming is use it literally to test a sequence, to test a difficult task, a somatic task that involves muscle memory. And so they've done a number of studies over the years. Basketball players, gymnasts, rock climbers. I just saw a study about throwing darts earlier this week, where when folks, they would the way they set up the study is folks would do a drill, whatever it was, some measurable, it was an amount of time, it was an amount of space you go to, amount of baskets, etc., measurable skill, and then successfully incubate a lucid dream where you practice that same skill set and then run through it again, and performance is statistically improved afterwards. And so it's almost like lucid dreaming can be a flow state for these kind of things, where essentially where the ego gets out of the way and we really move into, right, into setting deeper patterns into the body, into the somatic network, if you will, um, to do difficult tasks. So, whatever it is that you're working on, this could be something, and especially if there's fear around it, right? And again, back to this emotional piece. And so, for instance, lucid dreaming for stage fright is something that a lot of folks report successes with, like imagining or going out onto a stage. And for me, this is something that I'm a public speaker. I used to do ministerial work. I'm often on stage, and I had early in my career lots of dreams about being on stage, rock arenas, like singing, Bon Jovi songs. I'm really dating myself here, but the point is that gave me it gave me power. It gave me a sense of accomplishment and achievement. And these things are also measurable. And we know that folks who have lucid dreams and tend to have more frequent lucid dreams, it boosts essentially mood and in a wide factor of mood features. And so self-confidence is a big piece of that. All right, what else can lucid dreaming do for us? Um, well, one thing I could say, it's a form for innovation. It we are creating, I've said this before, it bears repeating, we're creating a container for something unknown to emerge, right? What is that? Is that embodied knowledge? Is that uncanny wisdom? Uh, Autonomous visionary information? Is it a download? Where is the download coming from? I don't know. Ask yourself that question. But it comes when we create a space for it, right? And so if you are working on a creative problem, and this could be coding, this could be mathematics, this could be somatic, it could be relational, right? It could be involving personality dynamics, and you're going to sleep thinking of these issues, and you can focus that energy into a dream and ask for a dream to address this. This is dream incubation, right? We can focus and ask a question to a dream. Lucid dreaming is a very specialized form of dream incubation, where you can ask the question, intend to have ask the question, and then ask it in the dream itself. And then sometimes we by just virtue of being, obsessed with something, we'll dream about it, and we'll naturally dream about the problems that those hotspots, or that where the friction is. And so we can just have them show up spontaneously because we're looking for it, because we're made a space for it. And when I say about mathematics, there's a lot of examples, and I won't get into it right now. But one of the cases is the early 20th century mathematician Ramachandran out of India, who died very young. But before, in his short life, he was known to be a mathematical genius. We're still apparently using his theorems to calculate black holes and things like this. Um, Again, I'm not a scientist. I'm not certainly not a mathematician. But what's interesting about how he says that he received this information is that he would go into a prayer dream state, and the goddess Lakshmi would come to him, and he would essentially be in benevolent relationship with her. And when this would happen, sometimes he would see, as if scrawled in red ink or blood, he would see algorithms. He would write those algorithms down and find out that they were correct. And this is what got him to Oxford. Right? So I don't know what to do about that. Like I can't explain that from a from a conventional materialist perspective, but I know that he honored these dreams and he honored his genius for that, and was, successful, and we're still using the fruits of some of those successes. So, let me just sum up right here. Lucid dreaming, it's about choice, it's about agency, it's about power, and sometimes it's about going against the grain, right? About leaning into like, okay, well, what can I do here that I wouldn't normally do, right? I'm going to pause and we can take a couple of questions. I'd like to see what's coming up for you. It could be a share or a question. And you can write it in the chat if you feel more comfortable, or just unmute yourself.
Just a quick, just a quick thought. It'd probably be good for people to introduce themselves because I think there's some people that never got to meet each other and whatnot, and maybe if we can introduce ourselves, we'll relate and stuff like that. Um, that's just my quick thought, but yeah, really interesting so far.
Yeah, Chelsey, do you want to make room for that?
Um, I don't normally do introductions, so you guys can chat a little bit. Sorry, because the hour goes fast and I did that one time and it took everyone like 45 minutes to introduce themselves. So I was like, oh, that took on much longer.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
but I
Let's.
think it'd be good to ask and explore like lucid dreaming because I know for an example, I can break the ice on this. Because I study the dream state a lot, right? And I'm also trying to develop techniques to use with the subconscious mind. I've noticed that like recently my subconscious mind has basically been teaching me the techniques I need in the dream state. And then I can go and understand it and use it like, in my guided meditations or certain things. So like and I've been doing this for years, so I feel like at this point my subconscious mind has become the teacher. I'm like the mentor of my own self in the dream state, and it's very interesting. So, yeah, just to break the ice on it a little bit, I would love to hear what everyone else's experiences are, even. Uh, I know David's driving to Houston right now, but he was having some streams where he problem solving technology and he was dreaming of the tech, so I'm like, okay, so even from an engineering perspective, you're trying to problem solve or work on something, your subconscious mind will design it for you and show you. And that's very cool too.
Yeah. Any other comments or thoughts?
Yeah, I would like to add something here. Hi, Chelsea and Jason. Good to see you again after a couple of years. How's everything with you? Pretty good. Okay. See, my question is usually, sometimes we are dreaming and the dream ends, we wake up. Like it has happened to me several times that, like, I wake up, it's an interesting dream. I go to the kitchen, drink some water, come back, and I can reconnect again. How do you explain that?
Oh, that's lovely. Well, yeah, I'm really happy that you brought that up. That is a skill. That's something that you can develop now, knowing that you have the capacity for that. And you know, I love what Robert Moss says about this. He says it's catching a tiger by its tail. And so in Stephen LaBerge, who's also a lucid dreaming researcher, essentially used that particular natural phenomena to build one of his lucid dreaming tactics, which is about waking up in the middle of the night, taking, as you say, a drink of water, taking a break, and then moving back into sleep, thinking about the dream that I just had, and saying, but when I go back into this dream, I'm going to be lucidly aware that I'm dreaming. So I was just in my high school locker, oddly enough, right, in my dream. Right? I'm 50 years old. I still dream about my high school locker, and try to remember its combination. One day I'm going to remember that combination. Um, so what happens? We use that emotional power, that vibrancy, that's natural. It's in our heart or our chest or however you want to say it. And you use your cognitive powers to link onto that, and you anchor it to this wish to, I'm going to be lucid. I'm lucid right now. And people have success with going lucid right after that. And so we'll talk more about that, but that is really a really nice segue. Thank you. I'm seeing a comment from Louisa. Meditation is perfect to help in having more insights during some problems that I need to develop, but it's good to know that it's possible to learn during dreams. Yeah, cool. And so in meditation, thank you for bringing that up. Meditation is a skill that is supportive of this work, right? Because you are taking and learning how to sit with yourself, to notice the patterns of your thoughts, uh, and with compassion, by the way, because this is very important in the dream world to have self-compassion, just as it is in the waking world. But it's like you really know when you need it in a dream because, there's ooze coming out of the windows and things, and you want to be able to have, power and agency in these moments in time. So, what does meditation do? It develops our emotional intelligence as well as the cognitive benefits of lengthening our attention span. Both of these things are beneficial for dream work and for lucid dream work in particular. Yeah.
Um, I I usually like I don't dream very very often. But like for say like this morning randomly, I was whenever you get up, just like an hour or two before, maybe I'm getting old, but to go to the washroom to pee and come back, I'm self sort of like half asleep and whatnot, and that's when I'm having very vivid dreams and I'm able to imagine and kind of control the environment. But I guess it's because I'm not fully asleep and stuff like that. But apart from that, and I think Chanel can relate too, I never really dream, probably because I never sleep, but when I do, it's very vivid.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for that. And so, a comment that I can say on this note of sleep is that, getting a regular routine for sleep helps most people with lucid dreaming. So if you want to dream practice, you've got to be able to get enough sleep that you're having REM cycles that are long enough where the metacognition can show up. When we have a crappy sleep cycle, what happens is the REM is punctuated. It's called junk sleep. We have to have REM sleep. We literally go insane when we are deprived of REM sleep. In fact, that's a torture technique. Good to know, right? So, what you do is when you have the longer REM cycle, you have more chances of bizarreness increasing, especially towards the morning waking hours, as well as deeper memories tend to come in those later REM sessions. And then what's happening is that naturally the brain is waking up, and it's people even hypothesize that lucidity comes out of REM as it is essentially the brain waking up into wakefulness. And so, but you don't get those effects if we don't sleep. And of course, there are short sleepers. It's like 2 to 3% of the population. And y'all who can do that are amazing. You can survive on 3 to 5 hours of sleep without any problem. I'm not a short sleeper. I'm the opposite. I'm a bit of a long sleeper. I need 7.5 hours to function, but 9 hours is where the dream life really takes off for me. And of course, for athletes and folks who do really heavy as well mental work, um, sleeping 10 to 12 hours is not uncommon. And so that's really interesting. Thank you for bringing up the whole thing of sleep, because our relationship to sleep can help with our relationship to dreaming, and how much we resist sleep can also be a reflection on how much we resist dreaming.
Okay. Hi guys. So just off that, my background is astrophysics, and I'm also an aerospace engineer. I actually work closely with Jason on a lot of space projects and stuff. And I've been recently talking about dreams, and how that's affecting me on a personal level and whatnot. And yeah, so I've been trying to read up a lot about dreams and how that happens and whatnot and so forth. So my question is basically, so scientifically speaking, dreams are made in the prefrontal cortex, right? So would you reckon that my ability to control the dream, or let's say the lucid dream, and the awareness of that dream, and to maintain, let's say, stability of that dream, and to manipulate all aspects of that dream environment, is directly related to the neural plasticity, during REM sleep? Or do you think it's basically the limitation of my subconscious, which has been imposed on, constraints on cognition? Sorry, go on.
Yeah, great. No, don't apologize for that question. That was really, really well stated. Yes, and the answer is yes.
Okay.
My son hates it when he asks me an A or B question and I say yes. It's actually it infuriates him. Um, it's my toxic trait. So this is the thing about lucid dreaming is, yes, what we know is that prefrontal cortex is usually dampened in ordinary dreaming, and it is more
Mhm.
activated in lucid dreaming and in lucid moments. And so that is the part of the brain, frontal part of the brain, that is involved with executive functioning, right? And so all
Mhm.
these sort of these concepts of what is self, what is self-awareness, seems to be correlated with prefrontal cortex. There is neuroplasticity issues. Everyone's brain's a little bit different, from what I
Mhm.
understand, and we know
Mhm.
from injuries that people can learn, like you can relearn how to walk after you have a stroke, and it's because of neuroplasticity.
Right.
Um, and so the question that emerges from that is then what are the activities I can do in my life that support neuroplasticity, that
Mhm.
support um, healthy vigilance, right? Because lucid dreaming is related, it's related to stress as well, right? So it, lucidity in a dream often emerges from a nightmare.
Mhm.
And this is like Nietzsche wrote about this stuff. I mean, it goes back all the way, right? People realize they're dreaming because they're horrified and are being chased and all these things. And so
Right.
there's this vigilance component. How do we activate healthy vigilance in our lives and sort of resist that cognitive domestication of everyday life, where I do everything the same every day and I'm kind of like a rat in my own cage, right?
Mhm.
Um, what are those activities? What does that look like for you? That could like spiritual practices. It could be about nature. It could be about exercise. It could be about mindfulness-based stress reduction. It doesn't have to be spiritual, quote unquote, but a lot of the spiritual traditions have been doing this, right? And have been doing this in
Right.
cultural contexts. So
Right.
as
Yes.
far as the second part of your question, to the limitations of consciousness in the unconscious, I mean, I think that hasn't been answered. I mean, what I think that is, to flip it, is like, what do you think are the limitations of your consciousness? What do you think are
Mhm.
what do you think, or what am I scared of that might come up, to move it into nightmare territory? What is the worst thing that could happen?
Right.
To look at these questions from an existential perspective, I think can be really rewarding.
So actually, quite brilliant that you brought that up, because you mentioned earlier that stress is one of the main triggers of lucid dreaming, right? So so again, this is my personal experience, but you can ask Jason. I'm stressed all the time, so
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
get it.
yes. Well, that doesn't really guarantee, dreams at all. I mean, let alone lucid dreams. And most of the time, it's just, I close my eyes and that's it. The next thing I remember is waking up. Like I don't even remember turning and twisting in my bed and whatnot. So stress obviously is maybe, not maybe, but is a proper trigger for dreams. But um, if stress is not, yeah, or rather, the question is, what else could trigger that sort of lucid dream? Is what I'm asking.
So I would
Because
say, yeah.
if stress is not part of that, and what else could trigger it? And I've heard from a lot of people where they could navigate their dreams in a very successful way. Whereas for me, it's more like I'm just for the ride, if that makes sense. I don't
Nice.
have any control of anything at that
Mm,
point.
Yeah. So no, so stress is a double-edged sword. Vigilance is a
Mm,
double-edged sword. I think about like the practice that frontier soldiers used to have in the American West and also in Europe about sleeping in the leather is what it was called. And it's essentially when you're in guard duty, you sleep on your bench, slightly reclined, but in a, in still a standing or sitting position, so your head's above your torso.
right.
Because when we are positioned like this, we can still get rest, and yet have higher vigilance levels and perform what we have to perform for our village or for whatever. Sleeping in the leather is like this ancient technique that works apparently, right? So it comes through, and we see the same activities being done by monks, where
Hmm.
they, what is sleep meditation and lucid dreaming grade into each other,
Hmm.
right? Um, if you're interested in that connection, check out the work of James Pagel. He's written a lot about this. He's a sleep physiologist. But he talks about sort of where does lucid dreaming become meditation, and where does
Right.
meditation become lucid dreaming? And part of its paradigms and intentionality, but from the point of view of like what's going on in the brain, sometimes it's identical. And so that's positive vigilance, right? And so that's what it's about. It's about finding my ways of being calm and yet vigilant, in control, and yet alert, and walking that tightrope. And it's an art, and we all
Right.
know what it feels like when we're in that zone. And so
Mm.
that's the question. How can I get to that zone, and how can I have waking practices that also put me in that zone? And
Right.
so here's
Gotcha.
an example. Wandering. So literally like going someplace new you haven't been before, whether you're driving or you're walking on a trail and you take the left fork rather than the right fork, or you're exploring, you're traveling. Oh my gosh, when you're traveling, vigilance, right? This is positive. It's excitement. You don't know what's going to come around the bend. Your brain's going to be more activated, right? You're going to be
Right.
thinking faster. We're training ourselves for vigilance in these times. And so, of course, what happens in daily life? We go to the grocery store, we go to work, we go to the gym. We take the same route every day if we're driving, or the bus, or whatever it is. So we need to incorporate vigilance in our life, wandering, making some time to do some wandering in a safe way, right? Just turn your
Hmm.
GPS off. Um, you know, not saying go like wander in a slum necessarily. Just you want to be vigilant. You don't want to be paranoid. There's that edge again.
Mm.
So that's a practice that you might want to try.
Right. Gotcha.
It's very difficult not to be stressed in the middle of 2025. Agreed. Agreed. So we've got plenty of ripe conditions right now for finding our center. Yeah. Okay. that's that. So we're going to the top of the hour. Is that correct, Chelsey?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, these are
I've got
great.
I've got a couple of more things I can say, and then we can follow up. I wanted to just kind of do some of the practical pieces of dream work, and we just talked about wandering as an example of an activity that you can do that can increase positive vigilance in your life, in which you're in control and yet facing something unknown. Um, the bigger picture of all this is with dream work in general is we're building bridges between our intuitive, creative, emotional mind and our waking rational consciousness that we like to think is in the driver's seat most of the time. But even in waking life, we're really not honestly that lucid. But at our best, what we want to do is we want to have the best of these two worlds, and we want to build bridges between them. Right. And so the way to do that, of course, is to honor your dreams, to pay attention to your dreams, to record your dreams. Recording your dreams is, I'd say, number one. However you do it, find a way that works. I'm an analog kind of guy, but I'm getting into the digital humanities, and so I'm always going to have a dream journal for like the rest of my life. I've kept one since I was 15. I don't write down every dream that I have. I would never do anything else. And so there's a balance here. So I write down the dreams that are impactful, or the ones that leave me guessing, or the ones that have something weird or bizarre that emerges out of it. And of course, I try to write down my lucid dreams. But and I would recommend, there's lots of apps now that are coming out. I have a recommendation for that, and that would be elsewhere.to. I'm gonna put it in, and I work with these guys. In fact, my publishing press is about to publish their journal. In fact, check this out. I just got this sample in the mail yesterday. It's a dream journal. It's a dream journal, and it's just a boring dream journal with nothing in it. But what you do is you use it with the Elsewhere app. It'll using AI. You can, if you have decent handwriting, it'll digitize your handwriting into text, and then you can use analytical tools to look at your dreams. And I know the researchers behind it. They're solid. They'll never sell your dreams. They work with folks who will never sell your dreams, and you can download all of your dreams to an Excel spreadsheet, and so your data is yours. It's really fun, and they have some AI features as well for dream interpretation if you're into that. And I thought that I would hate this, and it turns out that it's actually pretty decent, which I don't know if that's what that says about the human mind. We're patterned, right? We tell stories, and how many stories are there really? you know, there's really one story, right? Chelsey knows this. There's one story, right? So AI is actually decent for dream interpretation, and this is what I recommend: is like have a practice, however you do it. If you write them down, when you write them down, dreams go fast. Even if you just wake up and you have a feeling, you wake up and you're feeling something, write that down, or the color blue, right? That's building a bridge. You're like building a bridge by doing that. You're saying to your brain, oh, it's worth paying attention to this weird thought that's over here that has nothing to do with what I have to do today. So yeah, so the fact that you're here shows that you guys are already doing this stuff. Read your old dreams because they're data, right? They're data. For years, literally years, I went into a spell where I just wrote my dreams down but didn't read them afterwards, and then when I finally did, I was shocked. I was shocked at how like obvious I am. I'm just like, oh wow, like it's all there. Everything, my patterns, my foibles, my passions, my fears. It's just like, whoa. So we all, I think, have a little bit of resistance to what comes up in dreams because dreams are messy and often negative, right? But when we write a dream down, you're kind of expunging it, you're processing it, you're doing some emotional processing. The act of writing, it's been proven, does more emotional processing than typing. We know this. Writing longhand is a good practice mentally as a meditation technique. What else can we do? talked about waking practices. We talked about the one about wandering. Another one, so the one came up about wake back to bed, about like I had a dream, I woke up from it, I went back to sleep into that dream. That's called wake back to bed, and that works really well, especially in the second half of the night. So if you say you sleep 6 hours a night, after about 3 hours, if you wake up from a dream, that means you are coming out of REM. Your brain somewhat is activated. REM sleep is very activated. Take a few minutes, slip back in, and see if you can catch that tiger by its tail. See if you can move back into that dream with that anchored intention. When I go back to my high school locker, I'm going to know I'm dreaming, and I'm going to know what that combination is, and I'm going to find out. You can visualize what is it like to open the locker. Oh, there it is. There's there's my posters. What else can we do? I want to talk about reality checks because they're helpful, and I'll do very brief on this one. A reality check is a technique for noticing, basically inserting metacognition into whatever you're doing. So it's the opposite, really, of a flow state. It's like saying, "Oh, look, here I am. I'm aware right now. Am I dreaming?" And now we want to say, "No, of course I'm not dreaming in this moment. Like I just know. I know that I know." The problem is that we use the same logic in a dream. So many times I've been in a dream and I said, I clearly, this is normal that I'm at my grandmother's house who's been dead for 10 years. This is normal. I feel like myself. I'm not dreaming. And then only to wake up to say, oh, that was a really bad cognitive bias. How did that happen? And it's because, right? Because it's clarity and lucidity doesn't equal reality. That's the big picture. That's the big picture. Clarity and lucidity do not equal reality. Reality is constructed. Waking life experience is constructed. We know this. How can we become more aware of our biases? We do reality checks. And so what you do is you say, am I dreaming? And then you have to test it. And there's a few ways that we test reality, and none of them are foolproof, sadly. My favorite one, though, is to hold my nose and then try to breathe. And I can't breathe right now. Uh, in a dream, I would still be able to breathe because it's just my dream hand that is doing that work, and the work of my lungs is unimpeded. That's a trigger for me. Oh, okay. Um, Another one, people look at their hands. This is an ancient one. I think Carlos Castaneda wrote about this, and then Robert Wagner, who you all should read. You might like Robert Wagner. He's a little more on the esoteric side, but you can like look at your finger, try to pull your finger, see if it stretches. Right? People have really good effects with this. One more for you is I would say as a reality check is to look at some text, and then look away for a moment, and then look back at the text again and see if it's changed. Text tends to be pretty unstable in dreams. Not for everybody, but in general, it is. And so in waking life, when you do this practice, you look at a book title on your shelf, you look away, you look back, it says the same thing. Your working memory is still functional and knows what you saw and compares it to what you're seeing now. You'll notice the discontinuity there, right? Those are 3 reality checks. People practice reality checks. They try to say, I'm going to do reality checks 10 times a day for a week, see what happens. But I will tell you right now that reality checks don't work for most people by themselves. They're really best with one of these intentional practices, such as the wake back to bed. Okay. And that's really what you want to do is you want to kind of, I would say, harness your intentionality, your heart. What's bothering me? What do I want to know more about? It could be about awe and curiosity. It could be about problem solving. And to think about that before bed and say, I'd like to dream about something that addresses this. What does that look like? I'd like to, and lucidity can become part of that incubation. But if you make it content focused, even if you don't go lucid, you still can have some benefits there. And so it's nice. You might also become lucid in that process. But I think that if you do it that way, it resolves some of the frustration that occurs when you're really trying to have a lucid dream and it doesn't happen. People can become hyper focused on that and basically like lose the the beauty of the dream world in the process. That the dream is trying to tell us something and show us something that we need to look at, right? Those are the practices that I would recommend. Um, let's see. Don't have time for this because there's 3 minutes, but there are dream supplements. The one that I've done the research on, is peer reviewed, is galantamine. We published in 2018. It's published in Consciousness and Cognition. Galantamine is synthesized out of it's a bromide, and what it does is it slows down the breakdown of acetylcholine in the brain. It eventually creates a robust REM stage. It increases REM dreaming, and it increases emotionality and metacognition. If you take it in the second half of the night, um, you will likely have a lucid dream, especially if you're doing intentional practices along with them. And so if you can do some research on that, I can have a link for y'all if you're interested in that. It's I wouldn't say it's foolproof, and galantamine is not legal necessarily. Also, like in the UK, it's not legal right now. You can get it though on Amazon in the US, um, in different forms. It's a supplement. So do your research, as I always like to say. Watch for those counterindications because there are some, but it is a very safe supplement. I think I'll end there with the content and then we can open it back up for the few minutes that we have left. Unless Chelsey, you had a different plan in mind.
No, this is perfect. People usually jump off when they need to. Sometimes we go a little later, depending on curiosity. Um, and if you, Ryan, if you want, you could always email me some of those links and suggestions, and even Jade's book or her work, and I'll make sure to forward it out to everybody later so that they can kind of look through some of the resources, and even your books too. Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
guys,
great.
ask questions if you'd like. I know with me, lucid dreaming, I always felt like it was something in the dream would snap me lucid, is what I would say. Like something that caught my attention or just was abnormal. But I also personally like letting the dreams flow naturally. So I've gotten into this point where I'll still let the dream go organically, but like I'm in the background lucidly thinking about the dream or witnessing it. So it's kind of like experiencing it from the inside of the dream while also experiencing it as the observer of the dream. And like I've caught myself plenty of times like analyzing my dreams in a lucid state while still dreaming the dream. I think I analyze too many dreams. So now I do it while I dream. But it's interesting how the practice develops, right? And I think it leaves a lot of room for creativity. But there's also people like I would say there's like lucid dreaming communities, and they kind of treat it like a sport too. And like it's really intense what some of these people are doing. Like trying to create these huge scenes, or maybe they want to take a ladder to the moon, or uh, so it's very interesting. And there's a lot out there. So this was an awesome session. Thank you, Ryan. And please, anyone else ask questions. I won't kick you guys off until you're ready.
Yeah, I've got some more time for sure too.
Yeah, I think this was quite interesting, but I think we just still on the surface. It's too many things to be discussed, and too many different ideas and opinions about stuff, ranging from this material world to the spiritual world, and maybe in different religions, like people think differently. Like I'm from Pakistan, and I'm a religious person, so I see different kind of dreams, and everybody, I mean, is from a different culture. And like Jason has been communicating with the native Canadians, and they have their own theologies and the way they think. So we're all the same people, but the only difference is the way we think. We think differently, but certain things we do connect with each other, and we can, because we're all dots on this planet. on different dots, and we can connect because we're all humans, and humans can definitely connect in this world also and in the next world also, and because there are so many theories on different things. So it's a big topic. I mean, there are so many topics which we can discuss, and maybe in some other session we can discuss other things.
100%. Ahmad in Mubarak. Sorry, I butchered that. Eid Mubarak to you. Eid Mubarak. Sorry. And yeah, 100%. Like with the indigenous in the north, spirituality is very different, and I was raised in that as well. And I mean, we kind of have like different meanings behind the visions and stuff like that. But ultimately, with Chelsea's amazing work and everything, I think it's very important to better understand the inner self so that we can thrive in space and not go bananas. So I really think that this was very good, and really appreciate the time, Ryan.
Yeah,
Great. Thank you.
thank you, Jason. It's Eid Mubarak. Thank you so much. You remembered. Yeah,
I love it. Yes, we're gonna
absolutely.
have to have Brian back. This was fun because yeah, Lucy, we can take these topics to another level, like right they so I think this was great on like an intro, and Ryan's really good with this stuff. So I've
Yeah,
always
and
been very
thank you. And
respectful of what you have to say.
what I would thank you. I do appreciate that. I was going to say is I'm very comfortable in teaching from an interfaith space. I do so. My religious education work is in Unitarian Universalism, which is largely humanist, but makes room for all folks have different kinds of belief systems under kind of the same roof, which gave me an education into these questions. And and because we all do have different answers and different ways of framing the world. And I think that what lucid dreaming does is it provides us a platform to ask these questions and have some experiences and to be open. And we can lean into our cultural traditions, and we can also deconstruct them. The ones that the parts of our, say, the way that we were raised, if they are harmful. And like, what do I want to keep about the way that I was raised and the way that I saw spirituality or organized religion or any of that kind of stuff. And so lucid dreaming really offers a platform for that kind of deep work too. That's
Yeah,
fun
that's
stuff.
amazing.
Yeah, no, it is. And yeah, and I always say dreams kind of tend to teach us how consciousness works and letting us experiencing that and playing with it. So it does bring up a lot. And I got Brian, I'm sure you're familiar with David J. Brown in
Oh,
the
sure.
yeah, he does some really interesting experimenting even where he's going into lucid states, probably more out of body, but then he's connecting with other people and telling them, hey, you're in a dream and give me your names. And then he tries to go find them on Facebook in real time. And it's always interesting to see, like, you really, it's it's such a diversified realm, really. So I think it'll be good to have Ryan back and we could get more specific on different things too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And because Louisa is asking, well, what is it? What are the future astronauts? How are they going to integrate, this kind of wisdom? And I really do think that the future of technology is in the imaginal. Like the imaginal comes along with us, and it has to. And when we have a greater understanding, right, of what makes me tick, what am I scared of, how do I act under stress, what do I project onto other people that's really part of like my own, whatever damage, perhaps, or just my bias. Noticing biases in scientific discourse. Oh my God, scientists are terrible at noticing biases. As you probably know, it's hard. I can't tell you how many times I've asked an archaeologist, okay, so we're here and we've got a grid and we've got to randomly select one of these to dig. We know that there's a chance that we're going to find something. My question is, how do you choose that one rather than that one? And I've never had an archaeologist be able to tell me, because they'd have to tell me that is what is random, right? There's an intuition underneath random. And when we can begin to make those connections and listen to our body knowledge, which is working on the same problems but from a different space, we're just going to be better at our jobs and better at doing everything. So I would love to see future astronauts become, out of body experiencers and lucid dreamers, since they're already having shitty sleep, right? Like in bad sleep, by the way, and I don't want to disparage anybody who has bad sleep. I don't like to get into the you should sleep more. It's not like my jam. But when you do have bad sleep, these are opportunities to like say, oh, I'm in a liminal space. What does that mean? What can I learn from this, right? Fun stuff.
Insomnia is a really B. Sleeping 4 hours a day for like maybe 10 years now. So
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I did
Having
it.
meetings at 3 a.m. like on a nightly basis too doesn't help.
having kids doesn't help either.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Oh my God. All that time I spent doing lifestyle design in my 20s only to have kids. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, forget it.
Hakuna Matata.
Yeah. Well, thanks, y'all. I really appreciate your questions, your openness. It's been really fun for me to present this stuff. I'd be happy to come back sometime. Let me know, Chelsey. Take a look at the links I sent you. I do have a community as well, and we do lucid dreaming work. We do it all the time. That's what we do in a safe, guarded space. So if you're curious and you're looking for more of that stuff, let me just put my email in and I can tell you more about what I offer. It's just Ryan at
Thank you, Ryan.
I love
Ryan
it.
at dreamstudies.org. Yeah. Take
And
care.
I'll try to resend out in the email later too, so that those who had to leave early or couldn't make it today can still inquire. I recorded today's session too, so I think that'll be fun for them to catch up on it. Because I don't normally record these, so you're the first one I recorded. I was like, oh, we're recording this.
Yes, yes.
So thank you, Ryan. It was
Excellent.
awesome having you here.
It's good to be here. Take care, y'all. Sleep
All right.
well. Dream
Thanks.
big.
Very much.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.